Hey guys, welcome to Wandering into the Woods, a podcast brought to you by the creators of Adventures with BG. I'm Linda, and today I will be doing a solo episode without my usual partner in crime, Jarrett. And to fit that theme of doing something solo, today I thought I would discuss with you something I've labeled as defensive traveling. Now, what do I mean by defensive traveling? I think of it as some precautions that you would take to make sure that you travel safely, particularly when you are by yourself. Now, my goal for this episode is to help you realize that you too can travel on your own. It is just a matter of preparing and doing a little bit of planning to make sure that you take the proper safety precautions to make sure that you have the best time out there on any trips you might take around the world or around your country. These tips will be general so that they help those of you who love planning every step of your trip, but they will also help those people that like to see where the wind blows. Before I go into the tips for solo travelers, I'd like to give you a little bit of my background so that way you have an idea of where I'm coming from and might be able to decide whether my tips are helpful for you. I have been traveling since I was a little girl with my parents and my sisters. We weren't particularly wealthy, but my parents made sure that we had enough family time to take long road trips, particularly across Mexico, throughout my childhood and teen years. And those are some of the best memories that I have. I got to see different architectural ruins. I got to visit historical sites. I got to visit museums. And it was such a wonderful experience just seeing different areas of Mexico that it gave me a thirst to see what was out there beyond Mexico and the United States. So in 2009, when I was a junior in college, I had the opportunity to study abroad, and I did so in Chile. From there, I visited Jared in Italy and followed up those trips with another 2 trips to Italy throughout the next couple of years. All of these trips were done by myself, and I must admit I was terrified, and I even broke down in tears at some point in some of them. But looking back, I am glad that I did it because the traveling there was the hardest step, and once I was there at my locations, I was able to relax and have a great time. And I will tell you how you too can do that. Now, the following tips are to be applied before you take off on your trip. Tip number 1, figure out your cell phone or satellite phone connection plan before you travel. Many companies already offer international texting for free or for reduced data prices for cell phones. But don't assume that your phone falls under any one of these plans because every company is different and has different contracts with different companies across the world. Call your cell phone company ahead of time to inform them of your travel, tell them where you will be traveling, and ask them for information on plans that can help you figure out what is the best plan you can buy, or if you don't need to buy a plan for your planned travel. Another thing you might want to consider is getting a satellite phone. They can be quite pricey, but in those situations where you're out in the wilderness, in which there is no cell phone tower that you can connect to, you might be really grateful to have a satellite phone with you. So consider that as well. And don't expect to rely solely on Wi-Fi. Many tourist locations nowadays do offer Wi-Fi, but it's not something that you can expect everywhere and that you can just take for granted. So rather than relying or hoping that people at the locations you are visiting will have Wi-Fi, it's just best to plan ahead of time and consider getting a great cell phone or satellite plan for your travel. Tip number 2. Purchase a small portable USB battery to charge your phone. You can buy these for as low as $10 online or at a retailer store. You will want this small portable USB battery for the tools that you will be using on your trip. If you are out touring the city, you would use this portable battery to recharge your phone or your camera throughout your day. And if you are out there in nature camping, you will want to use this charger to keep your phone connected for those random times in which you do have cell phone coverage, not to mention all those pictures you'll want to be taking. Additionally, if you're going to be out there camping, you might want to consider getting a solar-powered USB battery to charge, because that will come in very handy when you're out there in nature. Tip number 3. Purchase at least one universal charge adapter. Different countries use different voltages and outlets to connect electronics for electricity. If you plan on traveling to more than one country in the future, purchase a universal charge adapter that can help you charge your phone, laptops, tablets, cameras, and even your straightening iron. If you're meeting with someone at your destination, consider getting more than one, because you will be needing both to charge those phones of yours. Tip number 4. Make sure you have all your medications and make any special health arrangements you might need. As someone taking medications for conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis and depression, I need to make sure I do not skip any treatments during my trips, because skipping treatments is not only not healthy for me, but it could cause serious disruptions throughout my trip for my travel companions and myself. For our Salcantay trip to Peru in 2019, in which Jared and I spent 4.5 days out in the wilderness, camping out in the mountains of South America, I made appointments with my general practitioner and my rheumatologist ahead of time to get medications for altitude sickness in case the need arose, which it did, and for a rare cortisone shot that I get every couple of years to ensure that no RA pain disrupted our epic adventure. I'm sharing these details with you to highlight that your medical needs do not need to be an impediment to your adventures. As long as you're checking in with your doctor and get the medications you need before traveling, you should be more than ready to take on that next trip. Just make sure to consult with your doctor. Tip number 5. Plan ahead for travel from the airport to wherever you will be staying. From my experience, I can tell you planning transportation from the airport to your location will save you many of headaches. I still remember arriving in Rome for the first time and being overwhelmed by not understanding the language. I boarded a cab, but I kept looking at the meter because at the time the cab drivers were not taking credit cards, and I had no idea if I had enough cash to pay the cab driver. It was a nerve-wracking situation, and I still don't remember if I even had enough to tip the driver. I mean, are you even supposed to tip the drivers in Italy? I'm still not even sure about that. But, tipping is another thing you might want to look into while you're looking into the transportation. As I've gotten older and traveled more, I can definitely say it's been such a relief to just arrive at our destination at the airport and look for a metro or bus connection, or in those few fancier trips, a driver. As a true crime fan, I too often hear horror stories of travelers who took a sketchy form of transportation, either because they did not know the dangerous players that could be lurking out there, or because of language barriers. This has resulted in kidnappings, rapes, and disappearances that might have been prevented if preparations had been made ahead of time, especially when you're traveling by yourself. So, I implore you, please arrange your travel from the airport to your destination ahead of time through an established source, whether it's through the metro, buses, or a hotel shuttle. You can also travel through a legitimate taxi company, which you might want to look up as well before traveling. The least favorite option is Lyft or Uber, but if you choose any of these two options, make sure to send the details of your driver to somebody else before you travel with them. Tip number 6. Let a loved one know when you are about to change locations and when you arrive somewhere. Whether it's someone back home or someone where you're traveling to, let at least one person know when your flight lands, when you're about to board a vehicle to go with somewhere else, and when you arrive at other locations. This might seem like extreme or going overboard, but it might give you and your loved ones a much needed peace of mind. And if anything happens, it could help those that are looking for you. I love using WhatsApp when traveling internationally. Not only does it encrypt your messages, but it's also friendly for tour guides or anyone you're traveling with. It's also helpful to use on certain flights. Tip number 7. Call your bank and let them know you will be traveling ahead of time and where you expect to travel and all the cards you plan on using. You'd think after more than 10 years traveling, I could have avoided this situation that happened to me in our last trip to Peru in 2019. While there, I thought I was just having issues with a particular ATM because I couldn't make any withdrawals. But then we tried others, and I was not able to withdraw anything from my bank account. I thought that when I had called my bank before my trip to inform them that I would be traveling abroad so that they would clear my credit card, that they would also know to clear my debit card. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The result was that I couldn't pay for many local services on my own. It felt awful because it made me feel dependent on Jared, for whom I'm grateful for. However, we were both really mad about the situation and, in fact, got into an argument over it. I was mad because I hate depending on anyone, and Jared was mad because he worried that if we got separated, I wouldn't have a way to get cash on my own. We were lucky that nothing major happened, where I found myself in a situation by myself and needed cash, but that was a close call. Well, guys, these few tips should be more than enough to get you started on planning your next adventures. Do you have any other tips you would like to share with others? Feel free to share them by sending us a message or tag us on Instagram or Facebook. Our handles on social are Adventures with BG. Those are just the letters B and G at the end. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, stay safe as you wander into the woods.